Hello again and welcome. I think it's working now. Let's just go in and take these ones off. We should be good. Let's see. Oh yeah, the coin shop. All right, so what are we doing today? I am just working on a tool to import yachts, which is cool. I'll explain it in a bit. I'm just doing some maintenance here. Make sure that we don't have a dual stream. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so let me turn this one off. Delete. There we go. And let's listen to this one. Oh, there it is. Okay, I hear myself. Good. All right, so if you're here, welcome. And if you're not, then welcome in the future. And you can also leave your comments in the chat or comment section if you want. Let me go to YouTube and check that we're good over there. And I'm doing it through Riverside. So Riverside sometimes does not show me the comments. Sometimes it does. So if you comment and I don't answer in real time, sorry about that. Here's the chat. Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can just leave the chat open. Pop out the chat. That'll be great. Okay, so I'll do that for the YouTube comments. That way I can see them if anyone comments. And the LinkedIn ones should be coming in here shortly as well. I don't know if they're going to appear in Riverside or not. We'll see. Live stream chat. Got it enabled here. So you're welcome to drop in any questions, comments, concerns, or just want to say hi. That's cool too. So what I'm doing now, I'm going to leave the live stream open while I'm working for a bit. In case anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them because why not? I'm here anyway. So what I'm doing today is for a client that has been a client for us for many years. They sell and lease or rent or whatever you want to call it, charter yachts and super yachts. And we're building an importer tool to bring yachts from a specific API. So think about it like real estate. There's these places that have all the real estate listings. So you typically want to bring them into your website so that you don't have to manually do the process of adding one by one or even getting an Excel spreadsheet and doing an import. That's fine too. But if you could do it automatically every time there's a new one, then that's better, right? So imagine if you're selling real estate, then you want to connect to something like the MLS or Zillow or realtor.com or anything like that and bring in the properties directly to your site so that people can see them. And obviously then you have more possibilities of modifying the information, updating, making adjustments to make it work for you. So I will then continue. I'm just looking for my source code. Is it this one? No. Is it this one? No. Is it this one? No. No, not this one. Okay. Where are you? Let's see. So I'm looking for my cursor screen. I have a bunch of cursor screens open and I just restarted my computer. So if you use multiple monitors and you use a Mac, and sometimes you go somewhere else and you just take your laptop and then come back and plug everything back in. Sometimes, not always, but just to keep it fun, the windows will go everywhere. So right now, my windows are everywhere. So what I want to do is place everything where it's supposed to go. This one goes here. And for a reference, if you run any sort of business where you have multiple clients and you're doing work for different clients at the same time, one thing you could do, which is something I like to do, is to have a desktop for each one. Okay, desktop 8. So for instance, I have 10 desktops open right now. Here it is. Found you. So there's one desktop for each project or client that I'm working on. It's very practical because if you don't know about desktops on the Mac, if you swipe up with 3 fingers on your trackpad, depending on what type of Mac you have, but relatively recent ones are multi-touch, so 3 fingers up, you should see at the very top, well, you see all your windows, but at the very top, you're going to see little squares, one for each desktop. And if you just see one square, then you can click the little plus sign on the top right and you can add more. So each one of those is going to be a desktop. So even if you're working on your laptop, you can have that open and then just switch from one thing to another, and you don't have your screen full of all little windows for everything and nothing is related and you get confused. So, so doing it this way is just very practical because I could just switch over to one or the other if I want to switch context and work on something else. So very, very useful. So now I'm back. Perfect. All right. So what are we doing now? Right now, we built this importer tool that calls an API and gets a list of all the YATs in this case that exist. And then we have to compare it with the YATs that we already have. So if we already have some YATs over here, we want to get a list of that as well. Let's say you're using WordPress, you get a list of all the posts. In this case, they're YATs for Charter. So we get a list of all of them. We go and fetch in the API, we get a list of all of them here. And then we compare and we say, okay, so which ones of these do we already have? And then for those that we already have, should we then import them, or should we just check if something has changed? So in this scenario, we check a timestamp for recently updated or last updated. And this is very useful because that way you don't have to pull everything from the API every time. You could just pull the data that you need just because you know that it changed. So whenever we're pulling something, we're storing it for the first time, and we store that date of last modification because that way we know when we do a future pull, we can say, oh, okay, so these 7 ones don't need to be updated because nothing has changed from the time that we last pulled them. So there's no reason for us to be querying that server. We save resources, they save resources, and everybody is happy. So that's a recommendation as well. If you're building any sort of tool, now I mean, it's so easy nowadays to build things compared to before because you have all these LLMs. So you have ChatGPT, you have Claude, you have Gemini, Llama, and you can ask it to do a lot of things for you. But there are some things that it's worth to still know. Like you don't want to oversaturate an API when you're requesting things, and because you could get blocked. So if you suddenly think, oh, I'm gonna go and fetch a bunch of information from another website or another server, yes, you can. But remember, computers are very fast. We don't realize it, but they're very fast. So if you tell it, here's a list of 100 IDs, go get them, it'll make 100 requests in like 20 milliseconds. And so that will either crash that other server, crash yours, or get you blocked. So you have to be mindful of that sort of thing. And sometimes these agents won't necessarily tell you about it. So just little tips if you're planning on building some little tool for yourself, which is good. So anyway, some of the things we need to change here are we want to map a specific taxonomy that is different. So here's an example. We have a charter areas, rather they have a charter areas taxonomy, and we have a destination category taxonomy. They might be very similar, but not necessarily exactly the same. And so we needed to know or be smart enough to pull them and then check those categories or taxonomy and match them with the ones that we have that are equivalent. So in order for us to do that, of course, we could put it in the code and say, yeah, as long as they have the same name. So that sort of, it could work, and it does work. But I think a better way is we're going to build a little screen right now that will allow us to map the category. So for instance, if we have on our end the charter operating areas for, I don't know, Mediterranean or Northern Europe or Arabian Gulf or the Caribbean, right? And maybe they have the Americas and Caribbean, or they have Europe. And so we want to know how they should be mapped. So to make it easy for the client, we want to build a little screen within the admin dashboard where you're pulling the information that allows them to do this matching. So they can just go in and be like, oh, I want Americas to point to our destination called North America or whatever that may be, or Northern Europe, and we want to map it to Northern Europe, right? So that's what I'm going to be doing right now. And if you have any questions, again, just shoot them in the chat. I hope I see them. I have the YouTube thing here, supposedly. I don't know if it's active or not. I'm going to check here and just put a comment just to see if it actually works. Hello, drop your questions in the chat. Okay, so I put it there. And yes, so it looks like YouTube ones do come into Riverside. That's great. I don't know if the LinkedIn ones or the X ones do. So I'm going to actually try that down here. I'm going to do drop your questions here. Okay, so I'm going to try that. Yeah, I don't think that on Twitter it'll work because it's not really a there's not really oh, here's a chat. Okay, drop your questions here. Wrong place. Okay, so let's see if they no, they're not appearing on Riverside. Okay, so we know the YouTube ones do come in. Sorry, not here. Chat. Okay, so but they don't seem to appear anyway. All right, so chat, studio chat, live stream chat. Okay, no, let's check LinkedIn and see if those come over. Then I'll continue. All right, so here I am, and I'm live here, and we'll do hello. Drop your questions in the chat here. No, it looks like just the YouTube ones come in. Okay, well, that is interesting. Well, good to know. Okay, so in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just leave a window open over here. For the comments. Think that'll work. So we'll be able to see the YouTube ones over here, the LinkedIn ones over there, and then the X ones, well, I hope just my phone lets me know about them, I guess. Maybe not. Anyway. All right, so let's start. Okay, so looking at my code, it looks like I already had a version of the mapping, unmapped areas. And interesting. Well, we could try it. We could try it. Okay. Zero. This is 214B. Okay. Settings. Oh, okay. So here are the areas. 38 areas not yet mapped. Well, right, because we haven't mapped any of them. Let's see. Antarctica. Are these our? I think these are ours. So south. Let's look at some of these. We've got. Okay, so that first would be Mediterranean and Adriatic. So we would do Mediterranean. Okay. Medi. Should we do it? Sorry, still hears something in my eye. There we go. All right, so perhaps instead of having type each of them, we okay, so yeah, what we're doing is setting up a way where we can. Not this time. Okay. So I'll get to that message in a sec. So what we want is we want to be able to map two different taxonomies. One that's coming in from a third-party system, in this case an API, and another one that we already have in-house. Why are they different? Well, because the in-house one already existed for many years. It is just the way we handle destinations, where people will take the jets for charter. Now, the other one is the way it's structured for whatever the API has. And so they're not necessarily a one-to-one match, because we also have other providers, right? So we have our own, which is our master list, and then we might get information from different providers, and they might be a little different. So a mapping screen is very practical, because that way, regardless of when you hand off, in this case we hand off to the client, they can go in and adjust which destinations match, let's say, charter areas with this other person. So there's little things you could do as a development company or software company or automation company that will just simplify it down the line for your clients, so that they don't have to call you every time. Because regardless of if you charge for whenever they call you, it takes time from other things. So it's better to, if you can, set it up in a way where they can actually use it and not have to call you, and then they have to call you for things that really matter, like creating a new automation or something better, or expanding the system, etc., and not for just manual work of changing the code ID because you hard coded it at some point. So that's what I would suggest you do in a situation like this one. So regarding this other message that I got, we are building a voice agent. Well, we actually already built it, but it's very nice because these tools like Vapi allow you to create voice AI agents. There are other ones as well. Vapi is very good. It's very robust, but it's also more developer oriented. You can create a voice agent that allows you to have like a virtual receptionist. So if you and your business have a lot of calls coming in and you can't handle the load and you're missing calls, and that happens to a big percentage of businesses, and it accounts for millions of dollars lost every year, it's handy to have a virtual receptionist. Even if you have a real receptionist, if you can have someone or something, in this case, taking your calls when your other receptionists are busy, then it is great, because they can take calls 24/7. And the person on the other side, like me, if I'm a customer, I don't mind if it's an AI taking the call, if it's going to help me faster than having to wait until business hours to be able to call, make an appointment, or check on the status of something. Or if they're too busy and I'm going to have to wait for an hour for someone to get on the line just so that I can get a status report or schedule an appointment, I 100 times prefer to just have an AI agent take the call, because it's not like your traditional press 1, 2, whatever, and you have to listen to the whole menu and everything. No, these are actual conversational agents, so you can just talk to them, and it's very fun because you can interrupt them and ask something else. So if it's explaining the menu, you already know the menu. You're like, yeah, I know. Just take me to account or whatever, and it'll do it. So you can build these conversational agents that are very unique because they have the possibility to communicate with other tools. Case in point, the calendar. So for this one in particular, people can call in and then check availability at a certain time of day in a certain day, and the agent will be able to not only check availability in the calendar, but also based on rules determine, oh, does this person need sedation? So if that's the case, then they can only come in Mondays at 8 a.m., right? Otherwise, it has to be whatever other time of day. If they don't need sedation, then it could be whichever other time. So we could check the schedule and then give them access or whatever to actually book that slot. It'll ask for all the information that it needs for the person to actually book the appointment. So very useful. Now, what we're talking about here, the message that I just got, is I was talking about the fact that we can use a third-party system like N8N or Zapier to build basically like an MCP. If you've heard of the term MCP, Model Context Protocol, was invented by, or I don't know, coined by Anthropic. And it's a way for LLMs to talk to other systems and understand the actions that the other systems can do in a very clear way or standardized way. So basically an MCP allows an LLM to say, hello tool, let's say calendarization tool, what can you do? And then the tool will say, well, I can check availabilities, I can book appointments, I can reschedule appointments, and I can delete appointments. And these are the parameters that each of these needs. So that way the LLM can immediately understand basically the documentation on how to interact with that service. So it's great if you build something like that, because then using a voice agent or any other tool that uses an LLM behind the scenes, it can then be very productive at taking those actions. So Vappy, for example, has a calendar tool that connects to Google Calendar, and you can simply just connect it and give it access to your Google Calendar, and it'll create the appointments, and it can also look for times. But it's pretty basic, and you cannot give it too much information like what to include apart from the basic details, and sometimes it might not do exactly what you want to do. So you can, using N8N or Zapier, or build your own if you want, you can build a little MCP server that will then be on its own connected to a Google Calendar, for example. And so what happens is Vappy, in this case, would, when you tell it, oh, can you check Monday if there's an appointment? What it would do at that moment, it will go and call the MCP server and be like, hey, I need to check for an appointment on Monday at 9 a.m. And then the MCP server will say, oh, well, here are my tools. This is what I can do. Let me go fetch the information. Great. Okay. Yes, there's availability. Do you want to book it? Yes. Okay. And then it will take care of all that, but it abstracts that layer. So Vappy in this case, or the LLM, if you're just using Cloud on your computer or ChatGPT, it doesn't have to know which actual calendar you're using or even what type of tool it is. So it abstracts that out. It's very useful because then down the line you say, I don't want to use Google Calendar anymore. Now we're using this advanced calendar we're paying for with our CRM, or a custom built calendar. Well, in that case, that now in your middle layer in Zapier or N8N, you just swap out the Google Calendar steps to whatever other thing that you need. So it's very nice because you don't have to modify your agent. So if you already have a working agent, does everything very nice, you just then abstract this part, and it's very useful. So I was talking with a client that I suggested that we do that part because it's very useful. And also at that point, you can do whatever other thing. Now that you are in N8N or Zapier by that point, creating the appointment, you can also decide, okay, so I did that, but then also I'm going to write that into an Airtable or on any other database to keep a log of what's going on instead of just doing the appointment. So it has multiple benefits, right? Just wanted to talk about that. I'll continue now. All right, so here, let's see how to suggest. Yes, okay. Okay, sure. All right. Awesome. All right. Okay, let's see how. Huh. On LinkedIn, the color looks pretty much the same, but on Twitter or X, it's like it's always got this yellowish green hue on top. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Anyway. Okay, let's see how this is coming along. Okay, so na10.io pricing. Go to n8n.io and create an account. If you do monthly or 20, build annually. It's not bad. Based on usage. So this is something interesting as well for those who don't know anything about this stuff. Let me share some things. I mean, they may or may not be interesting to you. I don't know. But if I go to make Zapier 10, okay. So if I share my screen, so this is the na10 website. Na10 is great because if you, this is what it looks like, right? So you have this canvas that allows you to create any sort of automation, and you don't have to be a developer to use it, but of course it helps if you know something about development because it has a lot of robust tools, as you can see at the bottom part with vector store and things like that. So you don't need to use that. So you could just use it like you would use Zapier. If you've never used Zapier, again, it's a little automation tool that you can do a little flow based on, oh, if on my website there was a purchase, say on Shopify, and I wanted to then move that and put it into QuickBooks, but then also I wanted to put it in a spreadsheet, and then also I wanted to create a PDF, right? So you can do that sort of thing. And 8N is very similar in the sense that you can create these, but instead of being sort of linear, you could do these very advanced flows that go back and forth and do a lot of things, and it has agent steps and AI steps and a lot of very, very fun stuff. So that's why I particularly like N8N. There's another one similar to N8N called make.com. And so make.com also works like N8N. It also have this little canvas, and you can design automations. And as you can see, you can connect all sorts of different tools, like even Canva and things like that. But you create these flows and you automate things. So you can automate things like when I don't know, maybe a payment comes in through Stripe and you want to then put it into an Airtable. And then from there, you wanted to go into your QuickBooks. And then from there, you wanted to do something else, right? Let someone know that the payment came in, right? Salesperson or whatever. Or maybe you don't have like a website with everything connected. Then you could just have it do things for you. So where before you would need to code a lot of these things with these tools, you could just go in and create these flows. And so let's say someone just pays for your thing on Square or Stripe or whatever, you can have it be, oh, read whatever they purchased, and then based on that, go and check this spreadsheet that I have with all the products that I should send them, and then based on that, generate an order sheet and print something in my label printer, and at the same time, let the person in logistics know, and also give them access, create an account in this other website and give them access. Like you can do all that sort of thing instead of having to build this huge complex website to do it all. So it's very nice. You can do many, many things. And we use that a lot to build automations for clients so that they save time. That's what we do most often. Either we're building dashboards to expose data that they don't have, or we are building automations where it just helps you streamline the whole process. You can use it for support. When someone emails you, you can automatically read the email, process it, send it to the right department with the details already digested, and maybe even some information about how to solve that particular issue. You can use it so that, I don't know, let's say you have field workers. They go and they take pictures at a job site and you need that information to be processed fast. Well, they could just have a Telegram bot, right? Simple as that. And just go to the site, send a message to the bot and say, oh, I'm here at the job site 55443 and here are the pictures. And you just snap the pictures and write some details, and then you can have something that just reads those, processes them, put them in the other systems, and starts creating a quote, etc. So you could do a lot of very, very fun things. Anyway, in the scenario of what we were talking about earlier with VAPI and the LLMs, you can also create MCP here. So you can create an MCP server that a call comes in to the MPC server, and then it tells it what tools it has available, and then you can run with whatever extra things you want. But pricing wise, it's not bad at all. It's like you can, there's a difference. I'll explain in a second, but it's about $24 a month if you do it monthly with the starter package, and that's fine. If you go up to the pro tier, you can have more shared projects, you can have more concurrent executions, you can have admin roles, you can have global variables, etc. So depending on what you need, you just go up. And again, it's not bad for the amount of time that it can save you. It's not really bad. And the big difference between Make and N8N is that N8N just charges you per execution. So your execution could be very extensive, which means this could be extremely complex and have 52 steps, right? They would just charge you for that run, right? So if you had 2,000 runs, it'll charge you for the 2,000, like it'll use 2,000 runs of the whole thing. Make.com, on the other hand, is a little different. They charge you per step. So if you go in and you see, let me see if I can show you an example of a flow, right? So let's say you have all these steps, right? So if it goes in and it has to do 6 steps, it'll consume, each of the steps will consume 1 item or 1 unit or whatever number of units based on the type of item, because they changed recently because the AI agents might use more. And so it is different. If you're using Make, you might want to be more considerate of how many steps you use. So maybe you're not so verbose, and that way you use less steps. Whereas on the other one, you can have as many as you want. But which one's better? Well, there's no real better one. It just depends. I feel N8N is a little better for people who do have some technical knowledge, because you could run code and do more advanced things for certain things that Make. But they both can do really advanced things anyway. And at the end of the day, is which one you like. You can try all of them, and some people really love Zapier, and Zapier has some integrations that these two don't have, right, as well. And so at the end of the day, it's whatever flavor suits you best based on whatever your needs are. But the big difference, I think, with N8N is that they also support a self-hosted version. So for example, for most of the client work we do, we use the hosted version, which is that one. It's $24 a month, $60 a month, etc., depending on how you scale. But you can also host it on your server. So if you have a server, you can host it. It's open source. You can just put the code on your server and run it. The code is literally here. And this is great because you can have this running on your computer or on your server. And that means there's no credits. So you don't need to, oh, I can just have 2,500. No, you don't have to pay anything per month. You just use it. And so there are some things that they include in the cloud version, some AI things that might be useful for some people. But other than that, if you could just run it locally and have a blast with it and not have to pay anything. So it's really nice. So it really depends on what you need, and obviously check the fair code license and all that good stuff to see what are the limitations. But it's tremendously useful, especially if there are scenarios where you have to have considerations of where the data goes, and if you cannot move it from your infrastructure, then maybe something like this might make more sense. Anyway, just wanted to share a little bit of that because we were discussing it. I hope it helps. So let's go over here and continue with what we're doing. Okay, do we want to check syntax errors? Yes, let's do that. Okay, so I'm about to leave shortly because we have a little event at the school, but I want to test the version of the importer mapping feature that I was talking about, so I'll do that shortly. There's an order. With a height B. Okay, let's see. What is this? Width 53, height 77. Width 77, 26, height B. Oh, right. 53, 77, 26. With A, height B. Okay, ready to test. Two column, okay. See? Oh, okay. So this might be good. Now we have charter areas on the left and then our destination category. So basically we can say things like, okay, so I want Caribbean. Let's look for Caribbean over here. Caribbean would be Caribbean and Bahamas. Okay, so for Caribbean and Bahamas, we want Caribbean and Bahamas. Okay, so here we would do Caribbean. We would do Caribbean and Bahamas. And also Bahamas. Oh, good. It's not bad. Oh, there's one for Bahamas here. So we don't need this one. And let's see, Arabian Gulf. We would do Middle East Arabia would be Arabian Gulf. And then Indian Ocean would be Indian Ocean. That makes sense. So let's search for Indian Ocean. Indian Ocean. Egypt. Oh, this is nice. Okay. So I'm going to save settings. All right, it works. Okay, well, I have to head out now because we have an event at the school. So, good to see everyone, and I'll see you in the next live stream. Cheers.